Part 23. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lau Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 221. The economic system of Dusktown is a very stable economic system. Under the premise of having 20 million gold reserves, the expansion of the army can be carried out through some special means. In the town of Ilan in the south of Dusktown, several handsome knights escorted a player named MK to the center of the town. After secretly discussing with the mayor Rantai for a while, a notice of recruiting talents was delivered to every corner of Ilan town. Dusktown recruits young dwarves for forging and warriors. Several dwarves who have just entered adulthood whispered. Dwarves are different from humans. The probability of producing talents is higher, which is determined by the fertility rate, just like dragons are born elites. The lower the fertility rate and the longer the lifespan, the higher the probability of producing talents. This also makes a large number of dwarves in Ilan village unable to find suitable jobs. Dusktown? Isn't this a famous town in the north? I heard that we in Ilan have been selling a lot of weapons and armor to Dusktown at cost price. But the basic resources provided by Dusktown are also very large. Isn't it the first time that our Ilan town has seen a population increase in more than a year? The young dwarf whispered, and after a while, several ordinary NPCs were tempted. The conditions provided by Dusktown are better than those in Ilan town. Although this will be far away from the clan, there are many dwarves working as blacksmith mercenaries outside, and the dwarves will not care much about this. The working conditions, treatment, and prospects provided by Dusktown are very good. This is the reason why ordinary NPCs want to settle in Dusktown. So after a few hours, the NPCs who want to settle in Dusktown lined up in a team of more than 100 people to accept MK's assessment. Those who apply for blacksmiths need level 5 forging, level 3 smelting, and level 3 design. Those who join the Bloody Cross need level 30 strength, master a level 5 combat skill, and have a full set of ordinary equipment. Dwarves are only capable of these two professions. MK has only more than 20 vacancies in Ilan town, and the competition is quite fierce. Fierce competition means that the recruited NPCs are excellent. Although they will pay extra wages, the strength jump brought is not a little bit. At the same time, this great recruitment project is being carried out simultaneously around Dusk Hills, and a man-grabbing operation has begun. For the wealthy Dusktown, there are almost no territories that can give more benefits. There are deaths in distant big cities and will not conflict with Dusktown. So, after several consecutive days of radiation to the surrounding areas, many NPCs hidden among the residents were dug out, and the quality of the territory's army was improved at once. The price is that countless players have hardly done their own things these days, and are busy looking for NPCs in the surrounding areas. The monthly salary that the territory needs to pay has doubled. Some NPCs also need special means. For example, the elite scroll copyist, the Goblin Gug, is actually hiding in a mysterious little spire in the wild. Although Gug is only level 34, his copying skill has reached level 7 and he can make level 7 scrolls. The conditions for wanting him to serve are also very simple. It is definitely not to give him the best treatment, but to enslave him and order 7 or 8 crazy demons to monitor his actions. In this way, the timid goblins will copy scrolls desperately. There is also the Dark Crusaders OSS, a level 70 elite, who leads a group of more than a dozen robbers to rob everywhere. Joining the Bloody Cross can easily serve as a team leader. Although it is very difficult to find him, the requirements for joining are quite low. As long as 55 food/day is provided, such a talent can be won over. After 3 days of continuous recruitment, the number of elites gathered in Dusktown has reached hundreds, which makes the 16,000 troops of Dusktown comparable to 20,000 regular troops regardless of command. Of course, under the command of experienced gamers, this army can play the role of 50,000 or 100,000 troops. After the expansion plan was completed, Shen Xian finally found time to take care of the black market. The purpose of the black market is to provide a large number of rare materials and epic items. Although the black market is trading rare items every day, the epic field is still a virgin land that has not been cultivated. Epic: when a shop or market in a territory begins to sell epic items regularly, it means that this territory has become a new place within 1,000 kilometers. But if you want to sell epic items every few days in Dusk Town, you need very strong capital. You don't need to worry about materials, but you need to treat equipment specially. Shen Xian found Ryan, one of the two bosses of Desolate City, and secretly signed a plan of epic for epic with him. That is, Ryan will assist Shen Xian in selling a batch of epic materials brought by the fire element plane, and contact those surrounding major forces to exchange these epic equipment to Dusk Town for auction. This measure made an epic equipment appear in Dusk Town every 10 days or so. After those players and NPCs who dreamed of getting epic equipment learned about this, they waited around the black market day and night, causing the popularity of the black market with hundreds of shops to surge. Naturally, the sixth step of plane trade was completed, the trade volume reached 1 million, the 8th level technology was mastered, and the population of Dusk Town reached 10,000. The reward for the sixth step was production science, which could increase the production speed of resources. Production science was a rare technology, and the cost of the improvement was 10 times that of ordinary technology. Level 1 requires 500 gold, Level 2 requires 4,500 gold, Level 5 requires 900,000 gold, and Level 6 requires 4 million gold. This rate of increase is terrifying. Every upgrade almost symbolizes a qualitative leap in the territory. If you want to complete the research of Level 10 production science, you need a country with a population of more than 10 million. Level 5 production science is very simple, but the current research and development of Level 6 consumes a lot of funds and is not worth it. Moreover, Fulay has told him the next task, so Shen Xian decided to put it aside for the time being. When November ended, the construction goals of the territory were completed as scheduled, with a population of 150,000 and an army of 16,000. On December 1st, when billions of players around the world logged onto the internet, a letter with a special cover arrived in their inboxes. A major event that could attract the attention of players all over the world was finally coming. Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 222. When the first computer ENIAC was born at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States, scientists predicted the arrival of an information age. After more than 100 years of development, the world is already full of traces of informatization. Almost everything above our heads, around us, and under our feet can be represented by binary numbers, and online games are the best among them. After so many years of upgrading, from the mud and UO of the year to today's country, people have gotten rid of entertainment and are more committed to building an illusory world. In the eyes of ordinary people, online games are online games, and games on the internet are the best explanation. In the eyes of scholars and businessmen, online games are not online games. Its specialness lies in the establishment of a new set of rules, giving people the possibility of exploration and research. If you ask what the door is, I am afraid that many players will answer that it is the highest spiritual paradise for billions of players around the world. Rule the virtual world with technology and economy. The surface of the door is just a simple URL, but behind it is a passage to the virtual world for players. Its technological strength can lead the world for 20 years, and its economy controls 1/5 of the world's wealth. This is not alarmist. In this era when spiritual entertainment consumption can account for 1/6 of the annual consumption, everything is well documented. But when the Gate was first established in the 1950s, it was just a nascent computer company. It took 30 years for the Gate to become a large company with top strength in the IT industry, and another 40 years to extend its influence to every corner of the world, building a huge industrial empire, and finally 50 years to control countless peripheral companies, covering media, real estate, retail, banking and other industries, forming a behemoth. But although people know that the gate is powerful, they never know how powerful the gate is. For players, the impression left by the gate is the comprehensive strength of global players, referred to as WTP. In early December every year, the gate will start to collect the series of data, indicating that their strength is absolutely unquestionable. Therefore, when players log into the network on December 1st and find a letter with a special mark in their inbox, don't worry. This is a notification from the gate. Soon, on January 1st of the following year, WTP will announce the latest update to inform players whether they have made progress or regression this year. There are many factors to measure the strength of players. Money, technology, and potential are all indispensable. The way the gate ranks WTP also uses a calculation method called the achievement system. This method can be traced back to the Xbox era 70 years ago. Whenever a player completes a goal set in the game, such as passing the level in the shortest time or killing the boss without injury, the corresponding achievement will be calculated. The WTP ranking method adopted by the gate is similar, and it does not distinguish between games or national boundaries. This is a huge project that only the gate can do, and it has been recognized by scholars and players all over the world. On December 1st, Shen Xian also received such a letter when he logged into the kingdom, but he chose to delete it directly and then logged into the game. The WTP ranking is not important to ordinary players. The billionth and second place are just after dinner talk for players. WTP is more of a qualification certificate for professional players. Those who enter the top 1 million are all elite pillars of the industry. Only if they have a sufficient ranking in WTP can they get the coveted position and salary. However, for a newbie like Miss Xiao who has never participated in the WTP ranking, the strength of the gate is somewhat shocking. She can't understand how the gate can bypass the monitoring of various countries and send information directly to the players. It is more of a hope for her own WTP ranking. So, how can I make my WTP ranking higher? Miss Xiao asked. Miss Xiao, you don't have to worry about your wealth. There is no difference of 100 million assets and 10 million assets. If you want to get a higher ranking, you need to improve your basic strength. Shen Xian obviously knows the way the gate calculates achievements. First of all, there are external factors. Those who have the qualifications of authoritative websites, such as the 4th level Fantasy Master of Night Castle and the Purple Gold Writer of END.com, can increase their achievement scores by 1 to 2 points. As for the reason, it is very simple. After so many years of research, players with these qualifications have more advantages than those without them. This is a kind of proof. Internal factors: you can try to challenge some powerful NPCs, complete some heroic tasks, and upgrade the Mage Tower to the 4th stage. Those who can get the world broadcast are the best, and the number cannot be too many. This involves the issue of brushing achievements. Players are very unhappy with brushing and hate this kind of last-minute behavior. Therefore, if they really show their strength, they will definitely be recognized and counted into the achievement. Otherwise, it will be a punishment. The little tricks of WTP ranking mentioned by Shen Xian are very helpful for players to rise in WTP ranking if they notice it. WTP is also a good place to become famous. Those superstars and celebrities in the online game industry all have extremely high rankings on WTP, because this is a symbol of strength. After Shen Xian roughly explained to Miss Xiao some matters that need to be paid attention to during the WTP ranking process, Dusktown welcomed 2 guests. Goldfinger and Bitpig. These 2 players came here again through the underground tunnel that runs through the North Rift Mountains, with the purpose of completing the imminent North Rift End World mission. However, the progress of Dusktown during this period has made it a leader among the surrounding forces. Apart from the population, The strength shown in military, economic, and technological aspects have proved this point. If a territory wants to rise quickly without any special events, it is a great test for the player's management ability. The two thought that they should look at the Lord differently. The rebellion of the Engel clan was delayed for a long time due to some special events in the Council of Skills. The rebellion of the End of the North Rift is different from that of the Vank family. This is a real coup d'état, involving a larger scale. 12 million innocent people in the north will be involved, which will set off a major change. On the afternoon of December 1st, Shenxian received Goldfinger and Bitpig in the center of the town, and roughly discussed with them their views and countermeasures on the mission of the End of the North Rift. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 223. Although the world mission of the End of the North Rift was delayed for a month, the participating forces have not changed. The largest is still the Heavens, but compared with a month ago, the number of troops that the Heavens can send is larger. However, through the mouths of Goldfinger and Bitpig, he learned that the Council of Skills has also made great progress in the economy this year. Rebellion often chooses to be carried out when the ruling power has not been completely consolidated, because this delay will face an opponent that is several times stronger. No one knows the reason for the delay. This may be a mystery that will never be revealed. The Bitpig camp can dispatch 110,000 troops, the Engel family can dispatch 40,000, and the hostile camp includes more than 300,000 clan coalition forces within the kingdom and about 700,000 kingdom coalition forces of the surrounding 5 countries. There are not many changes in the military. In fact, as a country that has maintained peace for 100 years, the power of the Council of Arts and Crafts will never expand or shrink, but will only maintain for a long time. For the dwarves, attacking is not their nature. They only want to study forging. Therefore, after occupying the most mineral-rich mountains north of the North Rift Mountains, they will be complacent and no longer expand. Shenxian is on the side of the Engel clan, so there must be players standing on the side of the ruling Hamd clan. According to the news from Bitpig, the Great Maurya dynasty of India has turned to Hamd. The Great Maurya dynasty, the first large guild in India, can be said to have absorbed 1/3 of the players in India, that is, 70 million, in India, where the population is approaching 1.5 billion. Even the 30 million registered members of Hong Huang are far behind, so the strength of the Great Maurya dynasty is quite good. The first big guild has 100,000 player resources in the far north, which is not superior to Bitpig's coalition, but considering that the 5 surrounding countries will also send out troops, things become a little complicated. This is a game. When Engel and Hamd confronted, the 5 surrounding countries did not want any party to win with an overwhelming advantage, which would make a rebellion that could lead to the decline of the technical council end in a dull manner. Shenxian was also unwilling, because ending the war too quickly would weaken their role and reduce their interests in the north. Among the 5 countries, the Kingdom of Kord, the Kingdom of Walsh and the Mountain Tribe are 3 pure military kingdoms, ruled by fishmen, ogres, and barbarians respectively, and may adopt simple violent intervention. The Ice Knights and the Howling Tower are 2 countries modeled after human society, and their attitudes must be ambiguous and elusive. The 5 surrounding countries control a large number of troops, so if they interfere in the internal affairs of the technical council, the underground forces will have to face an irresistible force. Fortunately, the 5 countries also have unknown histories and environments, and are constrained by various factors and cannot act without scruples. On the other hand, the underground forces have signed a non-aggression treaty in advance, and the participating forces will not interfere with each other and can cooperate well. Among the underground forces, Shenxian apparently controls an army that accounts for 1/6 of the coalition's strength. Considering his potential, he can eventually obtain 1/3 of the army's strength. Then, let's first consider the pre-tasks of the end of the North Rift. Because of the delay, Bitpig's understanding of this mission has become more thorough, and the intelligence he said is also extremely critical and important. Including the two parts of unity and deterrence, the Engel clan must unite the forces that can be united and warn outsiders who dare to threaten the Council of Arts. This is what the pre-task needs to complete. We need to divide the army into 2 batches and send them to the north, Bitpig said seriously. It is easier to go to the north from underground than on the surface. An ancient corridor runs through the Dusk Hills to the underground world in the far north. The length of the passage is about 400 kilometers. It takes 50 hours for a mage with limited mobility and 30 hours for a knight with flexible mobility. Moreover, the underground passage is extremely narrow. Although there are many branches, flying units cannot pass through, which restricts the traffic between the two places. Our plan is to send the elite of the territory to the north first, so that we can have a say in the affairs of the north. We have to face attacks from both NPCs and players at the same time, so if we don't bring enough troops, we will be killed back. Compared with the talents and disputes in the underground world, the world north of the North Rift Mountains is much quieter. This is a great benefit of Bitpig encouraging them to fight for the end of the North Rift. Even if there are not so many players in the north, it does not mean that you can be domineering with a few people. You must know that although the population in the north is not large, there is no millions of people in the south. The individual strength of players who grow up in harsh environments is always better than that in the south. In addition, underground forces will be punished for fighting in the surface world, so Bitpig hopes that they can act in unison. I think there is no problem with this, Shen Xian replied. So, do you need me to stay in Dusk Town? Miss Xiao chatted privately. Whatever, the constraints of the non-aggression treaty are very large. Besides, Miss Xiao, you can control the illusion, so even if you go to the north, you can control the development of the mage tower. The professional spirit of the second-level mage is generally above 800, and the amplification of the mage tower can reach distant places, so Shen Xian doesn't care if Miss Xiao wants to take this opportunity to travel around. Shen Xian can't be careless about this world mission that even Xiao Yan values. He needs to use all the forces he can, eliminate all the difficulties he will face, and strive for the greatest benefits, which is the goal of the trip to the north. The result of the discussion with Bitpig is that he and Miss Xiao will lead a team of about 500 people to enter first, and then 2 days later, after the second batch of troops are drawn from various places, they can go to the north together. This is the military aspect. In terms of intelligence, Bitpig and Goldfinger don't know much, and even their understanding of the Northern Territory is not as complete as Shen Xian's. Because there is a detailed map of the North, he knows clearly what major forces are in the North. After arriving in the North, the next step is to negotiate with Hammett, the patriarch of the Engel clan, to discuss the action plan because he can only rely on underground forces, and no one is worried about whether Hammett will turn against him. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 224. On the morning of December 3, 5,000 elite troops of the Underground Coalition arrived at Bingzi Town in the far north world as scheduled and captured it. Bingzi Town is a small town with a population of only 4,000. It is isolated from the world. Murlocs are the main residents here. An underground river leads to the outside world, making Bingzi Town very concealed. The 5,000 elite troops settled here and lived on the fish and monsters hunted by the Murlocs. Shen Xian and a group of player leaders hurriedly appeared in the surface world through the dark passage, brought some soldiers, and headed for the capital of the Council of Arts and Crafts, the Great Fortress. It was another long journey. The mountain roads in the north are rugged. The nearest dark passage to the Great Fortress takes 300 kilometers. The fast-moving scouts need 3 hours. For this group of players mixed with mages and craftsmen, 10 hours is fast enough. Although they can take the extremely fast Snow Eagle on the road and reach the Great Fortress in just 30 minutes, their actions this time are extremely confidential and they must keep a low profile along the way. The world quest of the end of the North Rift cannot be concealed, and there are discussions everywhere on the Earth. However, players do not know what the meaning of the end of the North Rift is. A large number of players can only wait and see until the content of this quest is revealed. At noon the next day, in the Mage Tower of Dusktown, Miss Yao's illusory image absorbed the energy emitted from the elemental pool, and her experience bar continued to rise, 69.71 levels, 69.75 levels. The light spots suspended around her sank into her body. Finally, after dozens of minutes of meditation, she reached level 70. Silently taking out a scroll with golden words written on it, Miss Yao tried to input a trace of magic power into the scroll. Suddenly, waves of terrible energy came from the inside, sweeping countless information, and resonated with her spirit. Tips: Player Heye Bai Tian's Plane Studies has been upgraded to level 7. Tips: Player Heye Bai Tian's Mystic Studies has been upgraded to level 4. Tips: Player Heye Bai Tian completed the job transfer to Guardian. Tips: Player Heye Bai Tian accepted the quest Guardian Sword. Miss Yao's body was immediately reflected in a pure white light. This light was not a holy power with the breath of gods, but it symbolized the highest and represented the inviolability, making her, who was already very beautiful, even more noble. Like a princess. After reading the description of the Guardian's job transfer, Shen Xian couldn't help but get excited about this special job that can be transferred to the second level at level 70. Guardian, Technology, Rule Abiding, Order Defending, Condition level 70, No Faith, Holding Ancient Scrolls, Obtaining Activation Power, Researcher, Balance Law, Array Expert Talent. Activate Power, a way for the Guardian to control the Mage Tower, reducing the consumption of controlling the Mage Tower by 30%. Researcher, the conditions required for skill upgrades are reduced by 20%. Balance Law, get a 5-level attribute improvement when fighting against mage-type professions. Array Expert, bear 6% attribute penalty when using single-target spells, and get 18% attribute gain when using group spells. It is worthy of being the second-level profession given by the hidden task. Compared with his Scarlet Lord, it has an advantage in all aspects, but the difficulty of the two is different. The difficulty of the Guardian is much higher than that of the Scarlet Lord. It is worth celebrating that it can complete the second level before such a big event. Shen Xian is more confident about completing the end of the North Rift. Although personal power is small, sometimes personal power is so great. Everything depends on how to use it, not the power itself. When Miss Yao successfully completed the second level, the group arrived at the foot of the mountain 10 kilometers away from the capital fortress of the Council of Arts and Crafts. In front of us is a mountain range that is so high that you can't see the top. It is called the Snow Mountain Range. It stretches for hundreds of kilometers. The great fortress is built in the mountains and is home to 1 million people. From the outside, you can only see the steel-cast hanging gates dozens of meters high and the rock fortress protruding from the rocks. These buildings adopt connection technology, and the buildings share the damage with each other. This has prevented the great fortress from being breached from the outside for thousands of years. Once the Council of Skills encounters a powerful enemy that it cannot resist, the ruling clan will mobilize the residents inside the country to move in and live an isolated life. The interior of the great fortress is not as simple as people imagine. After thousands of years of operation, a city with more than a dozen layers of structure has been formed inside. This is why it can accommodate 1 million people. Hundreds of warehouses for storing materials and passages to surrounding areas have been dug, which is very convenient for defense. This is a community of cities, consisting of a main city with a population of 500,000 and several surrounding cities with a population of 100,000 less than 10 kilometers away. The main city and the surrounding cities are connected in all directions. There are both snowy roads leading to the south and dark passages deep underground. Therefore, the great fortress receives many adventurers, and their appearance on the street does not attract much attention. Although most players do not know the real reason for the increase in the number of active players in the far north, for those who are involved in the mission, things are very simple. The Great Maurya dynasty is one of them, and they are very clear about the arrival of the underground forces. The Great Maurya dynasty does not know the purpose of these underground visitors, but they have already regarded them as enemies in their hearts and must not let them get involved. The one who opens the end of the North Rift must belong to the Great Maurya dynasty. This is stipulated by the President Ashoka, so they must find ways to obstruct them. A street in the Mithril Hall of the Technical Council belongs entirely to the Great Maurya dynasty. In the secret room deep in the street, several well-equipped players are discussing solemnly. Ashoka, why don't you let us kill these people? Have you forgotten the characteristics of the dwarves? If we kill them at will, the Hamd clan's favorability will soon drop below 50. Several players kept silent. Are they just going to let these outsiders in the dungeon do whatever they want and swallow their anger? You must know that the Great Maurya dynasty is the master of the far north. If the benefits of the world mission are taken away by others, it will definitely be the greatest shame of the guild. Ashoka, as the president of the Great Maurya dynasty, of course saw this, but a little impatience will ruin a big plan. There is no benefit in killing these players now, but it will delay the negotiations. Ashoka firmly denied the players' ideas and decided to win over more allies during this period. Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Buledin Lau Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 225. The Enger clan controls all the power of the Adventurers Association of the Skills Council. As soon as the underground forces appeared, Chief Hamot got the news and sent a special person to invite them and took them to the secret room dedicated to the Adventurers Association. A square and rough rock house unique to the dwarves was carved with an adventurous lady believed in by the dwarves, and several low and heavy stone tables and chairs. It was under such conditions that Chief Hamot received them. However, what makes Shenxian curious is that when players like them, who are at least half of the Hell Faith or the Abyss Faith, stepped here, they did not feel the slightest discomfort. Generally, the statues of gods have special divine powers and are very sensitive to the enemies of the gods. It will produce strong repulsion, and even actively activate divine magic to purify those evil guys. But there was none here. In fact, he noticed a strange aura, which was indescribable. It was not until he saw Hamot that he found any clues. Hamyat, level 80, hero, but that's not the point. His race is actually not a dwarf, but a demigod. This means that his bloodline is mixed with other powers. This makes the 100-year-old Hamyat become a hero and reach level 80. No wonder the statue was indifferent to them. Maybe the statue itself was contaminated and lost its holy power. Thinking in his mind, the player sat down and a meeting related to the situation in the north began. The player understands the situation in the north. Dwarves do not like conspiracy by nature, so they will remain silent even if they sense a hint of danger. This gives Hamot the opportunity to seize power and seize the throne. So, what method should be used to achieve the goal of rebellion? Should it be military deterrence, peaceful evolution, or both? Everyone has different opinions, but one thing is clear, and that is to gain control of the big fortress. As a super city that can account for 1/5 of the population of the Skill Council, the Great Fortress is one of only a handful in the vast Night Star continent. Even if there are only 2 cities in the south with a population of more than 1 million, the importance of the Great Fortress it goes without saying. It is a city in the 6th stage of its territory. Capturing the big fortress means getting a fortress that will never fall. The ballista forts arranged around the mountain peaks and the metal-cast city walls and iron gates make it difficult for gods to break through here, but from the inside disintegration is much easier. To seize the big fort, the first thing you have to face is the 100,000 troops of the Great Maurya dynasty. The 100,000 troops can legally enter and leave the fortress, but the underground forces cannot. This is their disadvantage. Their advantage is that the underground forces are full of talents. The top 10,000 players in WTP can reach 500, and the maximum number of Mauryas is 100. They can make up for the above disadvantages through strategies and tactics. However, the strength of the NPC cannot be ignored. Hamd is quite powerful. As a result, the best plan after discussion turned out to be not military rebellion but assassination. Everyone was shocked. Being an assassin is a difficult task. The speaker of the Council of Skills, Agron Thunderai, is also a demigod, but his bloodline is not that of a devil, but a god from heaven. The three descendants left by the forging god Byron in the lower world, devout believers in the Ring of Runes, and the speaker named as a saint. Agron has served as speaker 3 times. He has lived for more than 500 years, more than half the lifespan of a dwarf. He is a very difficult character. The information Xiao Yan originally gave showed that the speaker was level 130, with 80% resistance to divine spells and magic, and a defense of 20,000. This is truly terrifying. Even if his attack power is 0, facing such does an unshakable fortress really need to challenge such a perverted speaker? As long as Agron does not die, first of all, the neutral attitude of the rune ring will change due to the gradual weakening of the pressure effect of the adventure lady. The residents and the army of the big fortress are also difficult to control. Although Hamot's personal charm is unique, it is not enough compared to the speaker. What do you think? Our speaker was attacked by evil creatures and unfortunately died. As long as we control this place by force, the fortress is in our hands. Hamert is a figure who cannot be underestimated. He does not feel the power of the evil world at all. He is obviously covered up with special items, making his identity as a demigod rarely known. He is also a graduate of Twilight Academy, a famous technical college in the human world. His auxiliary skills are very high. He even has level 8 in some mystical and royal studies that are difficult to improve. It is a joke to say that the underground world supports a puppet to rise to power. How can a non-monarchy country be so easy to manipulate, so negotiating with a smart person is the most reasonable? Everyone nodded in agreement. However, Agron is not afraid of ordinary assassins. Ordinary weapons cannot leave scars on his body. Even forbidden spells cannot destroy his soul. It is very difficult to assassinate him. NPCs that can be harmed by legendary or artifacts, several players looked worried when they heard this. Currently, only about 100 legendary items have fallen into the hands of players, and the maximum number of weapons is 10. Where can they find suitable assassins? Hamot said, "You don't need to worry. The advantage of the underground forces is in the army. I will mention this separately. I can provide legendary items, but the assassin will definitely need the help of several people, because the Adventurer Association knows such person exists. Aglon's status among the dwarves is equivalent to that of the Pope of the Throne of Light. He is the spokesperson of the gods in the lower world. Even if the dwarves think that the Hamot clan leader is more suitable for the speaker's seat, they will not kill Agron." Hamot had been preparing for a long time and said, "As for the method, I think it is most suitable to find someone who can get close to Agron. As long as he deceives his trust, then my legendary items can kill him." After finishing, he took out a small crossbow engraved with the sun and moon. This is the crossbow called the Innocence. It is made by the god of forging. The more kind and righteous, the more it can withstand higher attacks. The most important thing is that it can capture the soul and imprison it forever. Therefore, as long as Aglon is hit, he will not survive. "But who will control the innocent?" the player asked. "How could it be so easy to get close to Aglon, and where could he find opportunities to take action in front of countless dwarf guards?" "I think seduction is a good idea. I heard that Speaker Aglin is not married yet, Mofo whispered. Or hire Sarvazan, the largest assassin organization in the north. Hamat suddenly said to Shenxian, I think the Lord can take on this responsibility. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lau Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 226. The players suddenly became quiet. Lord. What's the reason? Is it just because he is the highest level player in the field? Even Shen Xian couldn't figure out why Hamat would give him the responsibility, and asked, Chief Hamat, what's the reason? Hamat replied, you have a special power in your body, which is a power left by the gods. I think as long as it is properly guided, you can deceive Agron and gain his trust. Mark of Light. Shen Xian suddenly remembered that the negative power of the gods left by Riverson had not been completely expelled, which made Hamat see it at once and gave him the task. However, the essence of the Mark of Light conflicts with the evil spirit. After the journey to hell, the Mark of Light in Shen Xian's body has long been negligible, and the strong evil breath permeates his body. Can this really deceive Agron? I'm afraid no one will believe it. Lord, you only need to go through a special ceremony, don't worry about that, Hamat said, handing the innocent to Shen Xian. It was a great bargain to give him such a legendary item for free. Imagine the chance of winning a 5 million lottery. You can imagine how lucky he is. While the surrounding players were jealous, Hamat continued, the mining rights of these mines in the North Rift Mountains will be handed over to the Lord. Do you have any objections? The players were even more jealous. Why didn't they have this luck? Could it be that the Lord had some special physique? Otherwise, how could he get close to Agron without being suspected by the speaker? After thinking about it, many players decided to wait and see. Several mines have huge benefits, but considering the overall situation, it can be found that mines can only be regarded as medium-sized rewards in the mission. After listening, Shen Xian checked the innocent. The crossbow is very small and can be carried close to the body. The properties are as follows. Innocent, legend has it that it was forged by the god of forging, Byron. With divine iron it uses souls as arrows and can inflict damage to enemies that ignores defense. Attack power 1360, attack enhancement 52%, strength 1300, agility 1800, attribute enhancement 20%, damage enhancement to non-evil units by 100%, weakening unit defense by 50%, skills ghost attack, level absorption, innocence, condition level 65. Ghost attack can reduce the unit's divine and magic resistance, and level absorption can cause the unit to suffer a level reduction of 1 for each attack. Of course, it is easier to practice it back, and innocence can make NPCs ignore your killing behavior. It can be seen that this crossbow is definitely a PK artifact in role-playing online games. In the kingdom, as a legendary weapon, the innocent is worthy of its name. Even his profession, which is not mainly attack-oriented, can deal 3000 damage, and the NPC with the kind attribute can reach 6000. Although the firing speed is slow, about 4 seconds, it is definitely a must-have for killing and robbing. Conservatively estimated, if this equipment is auctioned, it can be sold for at least 15 million. Legendary weapons can be used up to level 150, and there is only one in the world, so such a price is not surprising. Compared with some known artifact attributes, the innocent is still quite excellent even if it is classified as an artifact. While he was checking the innocent, the players discussed a way to disrupt the situation. We need to transfer the troops in the heart of the Council of Arts to facilitate large-scale military operations. The players decided to pretend to harass the mountain tribes around them, creating signs that the mountain tribes were plotting against the Council of Arts. Barbarians are a race that does not like negotiations and only likes to decide the outcome through war, so as long as the two sides fight, there is basically no possibility of peace talks. This is the first thing they did. After the first thing was done, Hamert then increased the number of troops patrolling around the fortress on the grounds of the kingdom's safety. In this way, he could arrange about 20,000 non-evil troops to come to the interior of the fortress. This is a preparation for capturing the fortress. Although they were jealous of Shenxian, it was necessary to assassinate Agron, so some players proposed, it's just that it's still a little difficult for the Lord to assassinate Agron. We'd better give the Lord some manpower, so that it won't be so easy to fail. Although they knew Shenxian's game level, he was a level 130 big boss after all. How could it be easy to assassinate him? If Agron didn't die, how could the rebellion go on? The players said yes. The Demon Buddha was the first to say, we, Zushan, have sent 2 players, Xiao Ziaji and Fixuliantian, to assist the Lord. The players around were shocked. Xiao Ziaji and Fixuliantian were the gold medal fighters of Zushan. They were the top 100 masters in the park rankings of the kingdom. However, considering the strength of Agron, some masters were indeed needed. No longer keeping secrets, Bidpig pondered and said, Hero, you go with the Lord. The illusionist's illusion is very helpful for assassination. Devil Maycree, the president of Canada Cry, also said, Clover, you go too. I don't want the speaker to come back alive. After a while, many players stood beside Shenxian. These were all world-class game masters. It seemed that it was very difficult to control them. I couldn't help but miss Miss Xiao. At least Miss Xiao was disobedient on the surface, but she obeyed his command in her heart. Only a team with tacit cooperation could create miracles. Otherwise, even the WTP All-Star team would be beaten to a pulp. At this time, Miss Xiao was already standing beside him, and said with emotion, I didn't expect to be able to act with the world's masters. It's really rare. Of course. If you follow me, do you still need to worry about not meeting masters? Shenxian felt that he could form an adventure group, which was probably the most powerful adventure group in the world. It would be easy to kill gods and dragons. Even if he had no interest in having an S-level adventure group in the adventure world, he was still excited to be able to command so many adventurers. After arranging the assassination, the next step was to unite. The players could not decide which side to unite with. It depended on Hamet's personal charm. Players could only play a supporting role. After a while, the meeting ended, and Hamet said, Lord, follow me to the Journey Temple. The next thing to deal with is the contact with the speaker. The two walked towards the temple of the Adventure Lady. Speaker, Lord Hamet has been occupied by evil in his heart. He wants to drag this country into the war completely. You must take action. Ashoka, the president of the Maurya dynasty, said sincerely. But the speaker was indifferent to this, shook his head and said, Brother Ashoka, I will not doubt Hamet. Although he was in the human world in his early years and received human education, you have seen the changes in the Engel clan over the years. Please don't say such things to such a patriarch with unlimited potential. The speaker refused, and the players around him chatted privately, President, let's just forget it, or do we act alone? Let me think about it. Those underground forces are not many, but they are strong, and they are not so easy to deal with. Where are the people in our guild? I want to draw them from the south. Transfer a group of people over here. As long as you give me another 100,000 players, we can win. But, if you are less than level 60, you can't pass through the North Rift Mountains. It's not easy for adventurers to come here. The floating ice port in the north can send players here, but the journey is long, at least 200 hours, and at most it can only transport 10,000 players. This is a problem. Then, you try to send players here in the next few days, and I will unite with other forces. Although there are few major forces in the far north, as long as they unite, how can they be afraid of underground forces? Ashoka thought of this and said to his subordinates. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 227. There were blazing braziers on both sides, and in the middle were rock paintings of the adventure lady's journey. In a temple that was not very grand, several priests covered their faces with green hoods and prayed silently. This is the temple of the goddess of adventure, Hamert said softly. It can be heard that he also respects the gods. Not only that, even Shen Xian must do the same. However, he still doubted whether there was really a way to temporarily transform his evil characteristics in a temple. They walked deeper and deeper along the deep corridor. The 15th level magic cast by the gods inside the temple could make all evil invisible, but Shen Xian still did not feel uncomfortable. Instead, he felt a little weird. After a while, they came to a cave with only a spring of water, clear and flawless. This is the lucky fountain. If a traveler encounters it on the road, he will receive the blessing of the adventure lady in the next journey. This is another building that has been given power by the gods. Shen Xian found the emblem of the adventure lady at the bottom of the fountain. The emblem symbolizes a god. Destroying the emblem is equivalent to blaspheming the god, so the emblem is supreme and inviolable. But what should be done? Hamat said, recite the name of the adventure lady silently. Don't worry, you will feel this power. Shen Xian did it. This is a task with a reward of 500,000 experience. Although he didn't understand it, when he faced the fountain and tried to touch that existence with his mind, a force responded instantly. That was a pure divine power, which was irreconcilable with the hell power in his body that symbolized evil and depravity. Therefore, when the power invaded his body, Shen Xian's health began to drop wildly. After equipping the innocent, he had 70,000 HP and his damage was decreasing at 1,200 points per second. Not only that, his body was in intense pain, and his head seemed to be about to explode. The two forces were fighting and clashing. However, standing by the fountain of fortune made his HP recover quickly. Gradually, the evil aura around him began to fade, and the light mark, which had retreated to level 0, took over again. The white light was like a crown on his head, and his whole body was full of holy breath. What's going on? Why can he return to the light so quickly after falling into darkness? Could it be that the adventure lady has such a thorough understanding of the world? Even a powerful god will be forever lost in hell, so where does a god get his power? Shen Xian checked his attributes, and the evil aura was shown as sealed, and the light mark was turned to level 3, which can increase the favorability of the dwarves by 5. However, his eyes inadvertently glanced at the statue of the adventure lady. The eyes of the woman who was known as the most beautiful among the dwarves showed a hint of red. Was it a miracle or something else? He didn't know, but he felt that there was something strange in it. However, after changing camps, half of the professional talents, skills, and equipment were shown as unusable. Shen Xian estimated that he could switch to an archer. Relying entirely on bows and crossbows for output, isn't he still an archer? Tips: Player Lord accepts the task Betrayal, looking for an opportunity to assassinate Speaker Agron, rewarding 6 million experience, 20,000 reputation, and the right to negotiate with Hammered. 20,000 reputation. The reward is indeed abnormal, but it will take at least a few days to improve Agron's favorability to a sufficient level. Shen Xian is not going to do nothing during this period. Even if Agron dies, he still needs to capture the fortress. To capture the fortress, he also needs to completely resolve the dwarf's counterattack. Things are happening one after another. So when he returned to the hotel, he immediately discussed it with Miss Xiao. Unfolding the map of the 3 giant mines that Hammert gave him, he learned that the 3 mines were iron mines, gold mines, and magic crystal mines, which could provide materials worth 1 billion gold. The most valuable one was the magic crystal mine, which accounted for 9/10. However, mining was a problem. The map showed that the three mines were distributed 90 kilometers north of Dusktown. There were dozens of small and medium-sized mines surrounding the three mines. It would take millions of dollars and hundreds of hours to dig a channel, but that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that it was difficult to transport and resist the surrounding monsters, and a large number of troops needed to be dispatched. In the dwarf world, there is a mine tunnel subway that can transport quickly. The moving speed is almost twice that of the ground dragon, and it only takes half an hour to travel a distance of 100 kilometers. But this is a confidential technology of the dwarves and will never be shared. Therefore, they could only rely on the old method of the earth dragon to estimate the total production capacity of the giant mine. After deducting the load of the earth dragon, they concluded that they needed to build 20 earth dragon caves, 30 warehouses, and send a team of 10,000 people. Miss Yao calculated quickly in her mind and recorded the data to prepare for the budget report of territory construction. In the territory, although Shen Xian has the final say on matters of all sizes, in order to win more support from players, a summary report will be made every month, and a series of data will be published to show whether the development of Dusktown is reasonable. Then, he gathered the players, a total of 20 people, and held a short meeting. Chief Hammett wants us to kill the level 90 Skeleton King active in the underground lava of the Great Fortress. Only when we have made enough achievements, it will be natural to introduce it to Agran Shen Xian, repeated Hammett's original words, and no one expressed doubts. Therefore, Shen Xian then arranged the tasks and sent some familiar players out first, so that it would be easier to integrate those unfamiliar players. Xiaoxiaji is an old man in the universe, and can even be said to be one of the founders. She obviously knows the special relationship between Shen Xian and the president, and the three heads. Her profession is a rogue, and she can detect the health of units and attack. A series of data such as strength and skills are necessary to defeat the boss, so he volunteered, "Leave the investigation task to me." Shen Xian agreed. Killing the Skeleton King is an A-level adventurer's task, which can gain 1 million experience points and 1,000 reputation. In a way, this is a good task, especially with so many players gathered together. The difficulty is reduced, and Zhao Shenxian estimated that it would only take half a day at most. Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 228. When Little Chicken was investigating the intelligence, another secret message was sent to Ashoka through the ubiquitous intelligence network of the Great Maurya dynasty. After reading the report, Ashoka slowly crushed the report into a ball and said to his men, "We have something to do. A player named Lord will kill the Skeleton King in exchange for the adventure team level. We need to send someone to stop them, and don't let him succeed. Is this message true? This person called Lord is not very famous. Could it be a smoke bomb released by underground forces?" Several players below showed expressions of disbelief. Ashoka said seriously, "This is impossible. There are at least 10 senior players gathered around the Lord. There is no need for them to do this. How many are there in total?" 20 people, average level 70, quite a strong player combination. The players were frightened. The average level was 70. This was probably an all-star team composed of WTP experts. I just hope not to encounter them. Our Brahmin regiment of the Great Maurya dynasty is not yet able to fight against it. I suggest that we send an army of at least 1,000 people to carry out encirclement and suppression. This can only be done secretly and no one can know about it. Ashoka had long known that these players were afraid of the players led by the Lord, and decided to win with numbers. The players of the Great Maurya dynasty were rich in resources, and they were not afraid of sacrifice. As long as they could achieve their goals, it didn't matter even if the players died. The players of the Great Maurya dynasty took action, and at this time, the player team led by Shen Xian had arrived at the ruined mine tunnel beneath the big fortress. The little chick is back. Little chicken, please announce the information about the Skeleton King, Shen Xian shouted. The petite girl in front of him immediately said, Skeleton King, level 90, health value 330,000, attack power 7,000, defense power 1,700, surrounded by hundreds of skeleton knights and skeleton soldiers, with skills that can deduct the lifespan of the player character. The hit rate is not high, summoning undead, summoning more than 100 undead creatures, and withering mark, reducing the player's health and magic value limit. These are the main skills. Little Chicken knew several languages. He immediately asked several players in English if they knew anything else, then explained it in English, and then announced the end of the preparations for the war. Then, let me allocate the offense and support in the team. The right side is willing to assist, and the left side is willing to attack. Everyone stands together. Listening to what the Lord said, the players were divided into two halves. However, the number of attackers was always far greater than the number of auxiliary players. Some players must be responsible for casting buffs, healing and cleaning up minions. Direct orders can be given in the army, but players need to communicate in advance. Shen Xian said, there are 17 attacking players, which is too many. I need to turn some players into assistants. Shen Xian proposed to compare the comprehensive strength rankings. The players had no objections. How could the credibility of the rankings be more reasonable than what the Lord said? Most of these players did not know the Lord. It was not surprising to have such an idea. However, after comparison, many players were surprised. They were surprised to find that night and day actually occupied the first place. How is this possible? Even if a mage has a mage tower, it won't make such a big difference. The mages trained by the Grand Guild also have a mage tower, but why can't they compare with night and day? Could it be that she is really that strong? Players can't help but look at this striking girl. But no clues could be found. She stood there quietly, and the players found that she was not any player they were familiar with. Could it be that a new king was about to be born in WTP? Shen Xian also felt strange. It was normal for Miss Yao to be in the top 5, because the investment in the Mage Tower was no less than several million gold, but it didn't make sense that she was ranked first. Could it be that the apprentice had already surpassed the master? After checking, I found out the reason. Miss Yao's wealth evaluation actually accounted for half of it. No wonder the ranking is so high. Rich women are indeed useful. He would not tell others, and there would be no benefit. He said to everyone with a smile on his face, I propose that night and day be the commander of the attack. There was no objection from the players. Shen Xian nodded, since everyone agrees that individualism should not be emphasized after the war begins, regardless of whether there are problems with command, this does not need to be considered by you. Do you understand? After saying that, the 20 players began to head underground under his leadership. The Skeleton King is active in the depths of the abandoned mine tunnels of the Great Fortress, where spiders and kobolds live. The deepest part is a paradise for undead creatures. Generally speaking, there are no dangers along the way. Level 20 and 30 units cannot do anything about it. The player was attacked, but the mine tunnel had been abandoned for a long time and it was difficult to move. It took 20 minutes to reach the 5th underground floor. Those players went in. Ashoka asked the players around him. Yes, President, they have gone in. It has been almost 20 minutes. Very good. Is there any other passage to this mine? Send the Vaishya group to destroy it with magic and weapons and block their way out. I will eliminate them all. Ashoka said this with some longing. He didn't know what these players could provide them. Losing one level was a trivial matter, but 20 players brought at least 10 epic items. As long as they exploded a few items, they would make money. Hundreds of players are quietly ambushing at the entrance of the cave, not daring to go deep. The terrain is the biggest constraint on the human sea strategy, so only open areas are suitable for the Maurya dynasty to exert its numerical advantage. President cry, we can prepare now. Those players of the great Maurya dynasty are ready, just waiting for us to launch a counter-siege operation. The three masters of the heavens and several giants of the underground forces sat in the hall of Bingzi town, staring at the message sent by the Lord. Well, the great Maurya dynasty wants to obstruct our actions, how can we not fight back against them? President Krai suddenly smiled, I heard that Ashoka is also here, wouldn't it be interesting if he was killed? Indeed, everyone laughed. Then, let's teach Ashoka a lesson, our elite can attack, everyone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buledin Lao Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 229. In the dark cave, the players led by Shen Xian did not light torches and moved forward carefully. Groups of orchid flames roamed around them, and the sound of dripping water was heard from time to time. After a while, they came to the territory of the Skeleton King. A wide underground city, but there was no sense of art, only piles of corpses and bones. Shen Xian stood far away and looked over, and saw the Skeleton King standing on the bone throne. More than 500 meters away, but he saw the soul flames leaping in the eyes of the Skeleton King. A strong hostility shot straight into his heart. The Skeleton King stood up, found them, and began to order an attack at the same time. We have to take action, Shen Xian shouted loudly. Immediately, a player took out a divine scroll, lifted the seal, and released the 7th level of holy light. The holy sound of praising the gods echoed in the cave, and slowly, the holy light symbolizing the power of God shone down. The cave shook violently, and the weak level 30 skeletons were reduced to dozens of experience points in just a few seconds, annihilated in the brilliant light. The skeleton soldiers holding rusty swords and wearing bone armor roared softly, releasing a thick fog of fighting spirit to block the swallowing of holy light. They shouted the name of the Lord, the two-handed sword of the Skeleton King pointed directly into the distance, the skeletons raised their shields, and the white waves began to charge. Shen Xian quietly reminded Miss Xiao that she could prepare for contact. Miss Xiao glanced at him and raised her staff calmly, ready, the first wave of covering attack. Output 5,000. The moment the voice fell, several mage players behind him released a level 6 range skill. Level 6, the output is about 2,600. Although the damage of level 7 is higher, level 6 saves more mana. 2 level 6 magics can destroy the skeleton, and level 7 also requires 2 times. Skills need to be reasonably matched. The flame exploded in the skeleton, with a radius of 10 meters. The players controlled it just right and destroyed the skeleton without wasting any time. Then, the knights and warriors leaned against a narrow hole with the help of the terrain and raised their heavy shields. There were only 4 or 5 skeleton soldiers who could attack them. Impeccable, this is the quality of professional players. The Skeleton King took action. The first target was Shen Xian. The crossbow in his hand was too dangerous. The threat to his soul made him very scared. He hadn't felt this way for hundreds of years. He grew up from a weak skeleton and clearly understood the horror of this power. He walked over step by step. Countless skeletons were born under his feet with every step. He was only level 10, but it was endless. Shen Xian could do it before. The Crimson Realm could summon the creatures of hell endlessly, but his power was sealed and he could only rely on this small bow. He subconsciously aimed, bent down, and held his breath. He suddenly remembered the sniper he used when testing times a few years ago. An arrow was shot out without any obstacles, hitting the Skeleton King, causing 3,400 damage. The level of the injured Skeleton King was immediately reduced by 1, and his speed became faster. Shen Xian could only hide behind the cave. But the Skeleton King locked him and had already discovered his position. He took a step forward, and the players around him only felt a huge force, and then they were directly knocked away. The Skeleton King swung his sword and stabbed Shen Xian. The narrow terrain was not convenient for Shadow Dragon to fight. Shen Xian blocked it with a shield. The number 2900 jumped out from his head. Immediately, another sword came. The cave could not withstand the power of the Skeleton King and turned into large pieces of earth and stone, but he gritted his teeth and persisted. The first team is responsible for the surrounding skeletons, and the second team is responsible for attack output. Miss Yao issued orders and chanted spells at the same time, and the stored magic turned into fireballs, ice arrows, and lightning arrows respectively. 5,100, 4,600, 5,400. The 5-man attacking team followed closely behind. In less than 15 seconds, the Skeleton King's health dropped by 20%. The Skeleton King was shocked and angry. He jumped up with a sneer. His speed was not fast, but his strength was amazing. Even the rocks several meters thick would be smashed into pieces in an instant. He came to the center of the battlefield. In less than 1 second, he recited the profound and wise dead language, and the ghosts in the shape of skeletons scattered from the sword. This is the withering mark, which reduces the player's health and magic points, and lasts for 2 hours. All players in the field suffered 4,000 to 10,000 damage. The Skeleton King then released the death wave, with 4,200 damage in the field. The dark fog shrouded their vision. This was not the darkness of the underground world, but a complete cover that could cover their minds and corrode their bodies. In this case, the healing profession obviously could not keep up with the speed of blood loss, and the players appeared in the state of half-blood and red blood to varying degrees. The level of the Skeleton King dropped to 87 due to level absorption. This was the result of dodging 2 attacks. Otherwise, he would probably only be level 85 now, with only 280,000 health points. With only 50% of his health points left, he tried to escape due to AI, but the Divine Scroll made it impossible for him to continue. The player began to retreat because treatment and potions were tight, and they had to leave here to avoid death. He moved when he had 30% of his health points left, because the Skeleton King would never give up the opportunity to kill. Sure enough, when the player moved deeper into the cave, the Skeleton King waved his sword and summoned 100 skeletons to stop the player's steps, jumped up, and stabbed the player fiercely. Miss Yao whispered softly, a glimmer flashed in her eyes, and a cold air shot out from the top of the staff. As if foreseen, she used the ice ring to kill more than a dozen small skeletons in seconds, blocking the movement of the Skeleton King and saving the player's life. Seeing that he couldn't kill this player, the Skeleton King turned to attack another player, still Shen Xian, but Shen Xian, who had thick blood and high defense, couldn't die even if he was hit 20 times. The Skeleton King still had 20% of his health left, and the player began to wait for the skill's cooldown time, in order to make a quick decision, so as to avoid unpredictable events in the last 20%. 20 seconds later, Shen Xian took out the innocent, aimed at the Skeleton King, and shot an arrow leisurely. At the same time, more than a dozen players around him also released their most powerful martial arts, magic. Dust and smoke rolled where the Skeleton King stood. When the smoke cleared, the player only saw 4 rare items rolling down there. Tip: Player Lord completes the task, Skeleton King, and gains 1 million experience and 1000 reputation. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 230. Deep in the snow-covered mountains, in a valley where light never reaches, there is an abandoned mine. 1,000 Moria players were dormant in the darkness cast by the cliff above their heads, motionless, waiting, looking at the cave entrance quietly. Ashoka's silent lips suddenly moved, and he said, "The Skeleton King has been killed." The player's tense face suddenly relaxed, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, took a breath, drew out his sword, raised his shield, and realized that the battle was about to begin. This is a battle destined to go down in history, the prelude to the Maurya dynasty's competition for the world's strongest guild. Ashoka looked down from above, riding a white war bear that was 5 meters tall, and even the brave ogre warriors would tremble at his feet. Snowflakes were blown into the depths of the cave in the whistling sound of the north wind. There were rustling footsteps in the dead silence. In the darkness, weapons infused with energy emitted a striking brilliance. Ashoka frowned. They were too slow. It took them 30 minutes to return to the surface. "President, the hunters and priests are ready. We can attack at any time." Several elders of the guild replied respectfully. A strange voice suddenly sounded, and Ashoka's face changed. "Wait, I think something is wrong." Then he raised his head. A humming sound came faintly from the white world, like a low thunder. When Ashoka found out what it was too late. Avalanche, a terrifying tsunami pouring down from the fortress, like the anger of a dragon, ruthlessly descended on their heads. This avalanche was too powerful and too wide. Unless it was a teleportation scroll, no one could be safe. Who could do such a thing under the eyes of the fortress? Ashoka felt a little cold in his heart. When did they find out about those damn underground forces? Was it leaked by the players, or? The great Maurya dynasty had no intention of giving up. Facing the fierce avalanche, the leading veteran player waved his hand and immediately organized the players to hide behind the rocks. Then the mage came out and quickly arranged a simple defensive barrier, hoping to reduce the losses in this way. More than 100 meters away from them, a soft voice said in a low voice, "The reaction is quite fast." "There will always be people who react when there are many people." Shen Xian smiled, looked back at the players who were still half-blood, and continued to watch the sudden change outside. All the players forgot about the 20 players in the abandoned mine tunnel, desperately resisting the power of the avalanche and lingering. 53 points/second damage, lasting 60 seconds, although not enough to kill any player who has reached level 50, but the insignificance in the face of the avalanche made everyone feel desperate. "Lord Brahma, bless me. Lord Shiva, help me." The players of the Maurya dynasty prayed to the gods they believed in, and even Ashoka could not control the situation. "Don't panic." Ashoka raised the flail in his hand and shouted loudly. He regretted bringing players instead of NPCs. Although the NPCs were low level, they were easy to command. At least they would not be so chaotic in this situation. As he spoke, the soothing effect of the aura of perseverance slowly spread to all places within a range of 200 meters. The players shrouded in the power of tranquility suddenly found that their restless bodies gradually calmed down. The Maurya dynasty quickly recovered from the avalanche. Although there were no casualties, the magic value of the rune priest was consumed. Ashoka understood that this was caused by the underground forces. He was angry and annoyed, and immediately organized a counterattack. In the far north world where the moonlight flowed, a war in the dwarf kingdom began. 2 kilometers away from the great Peacock dynasty is the elite of the Cry Guild, the Weepers, a legion of crazy demons burning with red and black flames, with an average level of 30. When 1,000 crazy demons charge down from the top of the mountain, it is really an unforgettable nightmare. "Lord, when can we go out?" several players who can't stand the loneliness asked, looking at the fierce battle outside. They have an impulse to try. "You must restore your health to full anyway." Shen Xian stared at several players meaningfully, and the players' faces suddenly turned red and white, realizing that it was not appropriate for them to go out now, so they could only wait quietly. "Miss Xiao, you command the magician to set up a few magic traps, and everyone retreat a little," Shen Xian said again. "You have a lot of things to do." Miss Xiao nodded, but in the end she still chanted magic to set up a few magic traps. Lord, is it possible that the great Peacock dynasty will break through here next? Several players keenly grasped the key to the problem and asked questions. Shen Xian replied, yes, no matter from which aspect, the abandoned mine tunnel is the best hiding place. The defense here is the weakest and the terrain is complex. As long as we hold on here, we can hold on until the army of the great fortress arrives. We can't let them pass through here, the player clenched his fist and said. Several players hurriedly stood up, ignoring the scars on their bodies. Shen Xian immediately said, don't worry, everyone, the great Maurya dynasty will not be able to hold on in a few minutes. As much as you can recover during this period, count as much as you can. Players ranked within 10,000 in WTP are not afraid of these ordinary players. Even the PK skills of Lord-type players are not very bad. They are confident that they can block this group of dwarves, or even wipe them out. Aren't players creating miracles? The underground forces relied on ambushes to seize the opportunity. After all, this was the territory of the great Maurya dynasty. Once the battle lasted for too long, it would alert the patrols of the fortress. Therefore, shortly after the madman charged, Devil Yakri immediately let dozens of lord players from their guild with the army advancing layer by layer. They wanted to surround the people of the great Maurya dynasty deep in the valley. At this time, the three leaders of the Zushan Guild, another major underground force, were on their way to the northern mountain tribes. Groups of barbarians who were not afraid of the severe cold crossed the ice fields and frozen soil, heading towards the bright world of barbarians. The purpose was just to start a war. Ashoka quickly noticed that if this situation continued, all 1,000 people would be sacrificed. The adventurer players were fine, but if the lord players were killed, their huge power would shrink. That must never happen. Ashoka swore in his heart, took a deep breath and looked around. Seeing 1,000 players completely surrounded, he ordered, let's break out of the cave. Several elders immediately realized that breaking out was the best option. There were only 20 red-blooded players in the cave. Could it be that they could still be wiped out? Everyone, cheer up, there are many players in the top 10,000 of WTP in the cave. Little chicken, Clover, you may have worshipped these aloof gods, but gods will also fall, and today our great Maurya dynasty will to complete this impossible mission. Are we gods? Shen Xian smiled slightly after hearing this. If they are gods, then these mortals should tremble in front of gods. Even the weakest gods are also supreme and inviolable, so let them taste the offending gods. Consequences. 100 level 60 players spontaneously gathered to form a vanguard. Thieves and hunters used tracking techniques to target several players. We don't need to use any tricks, Ashoka encouraged, we are the most powerful guild in the world. Break through this place and bankrupt the conspiracy of the underground forces. Thank you. Let's do it. Shen Xian saw the right moment, and several mage players hurriedly took a few steps back, using true vision to observe the actions of the great Maurya dynasty. There are malicious magic fluctuations, the rune priest of the great Maurya dynasty warned the players around him. But it was already too late. When these 100 players disappeared into the darkness, a crisp sound broke out from the dead silence. Then, with a bang, there were several shrill screams, and thick smoke spread in all directions. Finally, it burst out of the hole and turned into a blazing fire, covering everything that could be covered, engulfing 100 players. Ashoka's face instantly turned livid. Just got home. Next chapter, after early morning.